Welcome to the Steve Reads His Post podcast. For those of you who are too busy or too lazy to actually read my post, I've taken on the huge effort of reading them to you. Enjoy. PowerApps. Why spreadsheets suck. What a wonderful invention spreadsheets were. For many things, I don't know how we even managed before them. Okay, I do know, because I am that old. We manage things poorly. Spreadsheets solve so many challenges that they eventually created new ones. 1, 2, 3. The first spreadsheet software I actually used was called 1, 2, 3 from Lotus back around 1985. I created all sorts of spreadsheets. Shortly after, I switched up to Lotus Symphony, which was basically spreadsheet software with a programming language. With Symphony, I built a complex job costing system for my business at the time. It was really my first experience as a citizen developer. Needless to say, Microsoft eventually launched Excel and crushed all of the other spreadsheet applications out of existence. For good reason, it was better. Access. Microsoft launched another product in '92 called Access. It was a relational database product and also was not the first. Some users of Excel started looking to Access as a way to build business applications. Access was accessible, and many normal users built things on it. While the term citizen developer may seem recent, the concept has actually been around for a very long time. Although the tools may have changed quite a bit since then, the fundamental concepts are still pretty much the same today with the Power Platform's underlying common data service, a relational database. Fast forward. Before I put you completely to sleep, let's jump ahead about 3 decades to today. While the popularity of Access has waned, Excel is still very much alive. If I had to guess the percentage of businesses that use Excel, I would put it at 100%. It is simple to use, requiring almost no training at all for creating basic lists of information and basic calculations of those items. Excel's use in organizations is ubiquitous and prolific. It is the go-to tool for many users for almost anything. In fact, in enterprise organizations, I would not be surprised if the number of active spreadsheets in use is in the tens of thousands. Even small businesses often have hundreds of spreadsheets. Spreadsheets have become an infestation. Infested. It sneaks up slowly. A business or department is formed and there's an immediate need to capture some data. Who cares what it is? There's some shit we need to keep track of now, and the reflex is to whip up a quick spreadsheet to throw it on so it won't get lost. Makes total sense. Maybe we got a contact page on our website throwing off 5 leads a day, probably going to someone's email box. Let's put them on a spreadsheet and save it as website leads, and then we'll just add to it as they come in. Forget about web leads, it could be anything, but this is an easy example. So having these leads on a spreadsheet is good. We won't lose them, but we need to act on them. Next step, send a copy to our 2 salespeople. Today you could actually just share it with the 2 salespeople, but copies are still most often the default. So now we have someone updating the spreadsheet daily with new leads and sending it to both salespeople. The salespeople are getting a daily new copy of this spreadsheet, but they've been taking actions on the last ones. So they create a spreadsheet of their own to track their activities and just add to it when they get the daily update. Sales manager wants to keep track of what is going on, so she asks the 2 salespeople to send her their updates daily. Then she creates a spreadsheet to consolidate the 2 she receives. So how many spreadsheets do we have now? To be fair, a lot of this could be simplified using a shared spreadsheet, but still a spreadsheet is being used as a database. 95-5 rule. Excel was not designed to be a database, but rather a data analysis tool. The number of capabilities in Excel are staggering, yet 95% of users only use 5% of the capability. But Excel actually looks like a database table. Columns for attributes and rows for records. Sounds pretty similar. But used as a database, Excel gets unwieldy quickly. Imagine the scenario I described above growing over time to 50 leads a day coming in and 20 salespeople. In enterprise businesses, I've seen similar scenarios with thousands of people trying to coordinate a business process with Excel. Excel was never intended to do that. Have you done this? I often see spreadsheets that do not use any of the calculating functions. A tab is created for each thing, like a tab for each customer, for example. On each tab are areas for the customer name, description, etc., maybe even a running list of phone calls or other activities, basically using a spreadsheet as a quasi-CRM. I can't say this is stupid. CRM systems have become quite complex and expensive, where spreadsheets are more or less free. Tipping point. When are you torturing Excel too much? I don't need to tell you, if you've read this far, your Excel-based system is already breaking down. Sally, looking at the wrong spreadsheet, calls a customer to introduce herself, only to find out that Bob called them yesterday. Bill added a note that someone needs to send Acme a price list, and nobody ever did. Joe adds a new lead to his own copy without realizing that Mary was already working on it. The fracture points are various and numerous. When did it start? Actually, when the second person was added to the process, the seeds were planted for its eventual implosion. But CRM is so expensive. Think ROI. It's funny some of the rationalizations customers come up with to avoid a cost. I often hear stories of massive inefficiencies costing customers thousands of dollars, followed by, is there a way 5 users could share a license? To save $160. I get it, you're moving from a shit system, but it's free. But is it free? Have you taken into account anything other than a free system versus a system with a cost? SMBs really struggle with this one, focusing 100% on the possible additional cost, easily able to ignore the costs they are currently incurring, like wasted time and lost opportunities, and in a worst case, lost customers. A path forward. Microsoft gave you the tool to create this mess, and thankfully, they also created the tools to get you out of it. You need a business application to replace your spreadsheets. We both know that. If you're using Excel, you probably already have other Microsoft products like Outlook, etc., or maybe even Office 365, so it makes sense to look at the same company for a solution to your Excel plosion. The main thing is you don't want to find yourself down the road with the same problem. Microsoft has a couple of ways to avoid that happening: Dynamics 365 or PowerApps. Let's unpack them briefly. Microsoft Dynamics 365. This is Microsoft's world-class enterprise-grade business application family. If you are an enterprise, it may already be in use elsewhere in your organization. It competes head-to-head with Salesforce and is a very powerful platform for solving the most complex business processes. If you have sophisticated applications in place already and are looking to move to the next level, this is something to consider. But moving from an Excel-based system, you could not possibly have been solving enterprise-grade problems, so it could feel like a pretty big hammer. It is a big hammer, and if you're reading this post, you should ignore it completely. Trying to go from 50 miles an hour straight to 500 miles an hour will snap everyone's neck and you'll be in an even worse place. PowerApps. Now we're talking. This is exactly where you need to be going next. It is the most logical step forward from an Excel-based system. It is also significantly less expensive than Dynamics 365, and it's citizen developer friendly. My choice for moving customers off of spreadsheets is what are called model-driven Power Apps. They're like Dynamics 365's little brother. They sit on the same relational database, common data service, as the monster applications, but without all the tentacles of complexity. If your needs eventually become really huge, you can easily activate the monster without having to move anything. Back to Access? If you ever worked with Microsoft Access before, Power Apps is kind of like the new version of that, but at the same time, nothing like that. The similarities are that a person with some basic technical skills can build a usable application on top of a relational database. While Access was not specifically designed for non-developers, Power Apps has enabling the citizen developers as a core goal. If you don't have a comfort with basic techie stuff, or you don't have the time to mess with it, a partner that specializes in Power Apps can help get you there. Shameless plug, my company ForceWorks is a Power Apps partner, but the army of Power Apps partners is growing fast. Another shameless plug. As part of our mission to move Excel-based systems to PowerApps, we created an accelerator to help customers get there faster and save some money. We call it Rapid Start CRM, and you can learn more about it at rapidstartcrm.com. So I think that about covers it, or at least starts a conversation. It's time to stop torturing Excel and torturing your team. You have officially run out of excuses.